Shalom. Shalom. To start by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham, Ruchak Kodash. Yahweh is the true name of the Heavenly Father, nation Hebrew. Yahweh Shai is the true name of the Living God the Son. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who were well, and peace and salutations to the elect of Israel, the Bible, or the so-called blacks, so-called Hispanics, and so-called Native Americans, as well as your Israelite foreigners that may look at nations but believe this truth. This is Brother Shakal with a video lesson. Forget which brother it was. Um, on which in the point that something that he said about was pretty much racist remarks about white people being small in number, and how he didn't like dark dark races populating, especially the Israelites, the so-called blacks, so-called Hispanics, so-called Native Americans. And before I speak more on it, I'm gonna just read it. And then I'll get to the point of it. But this is just the last point 24, if you want to read it, on Benjamin Franklin, titled Observations Concerning People. And so that's what this titled, try to link. We'll want to remember the link box. But and obviously I'm not gonna read the whole thing. It's just from Columbia EDU, the 24th point on it is all I'm gonna read. But to scroll over like luck, there's 24 from the essay, point 24, which leads me to add one remark that the number of purely white people in the world is proportionally very small. All Africa is black or tawny, and for one point that Africa is named after a so-called white man, Scipio Africanus. So I don't know why. So our people are really foolish and simple and stupid, thinking that they're Africans and rejoicing proud to be so-called African, and thinking that's your heritage. So into being African heritage that you don't even know that Africa is a so-called named after a so-called white man. We're really Israelites. And the Africans, we're also separate from the other Africans. Some of our people are scattered there, but the cow ass sniffing, piss bathing, blood drinking Africans, those are not the same as the so-called American, West Indian, and Haitian so-called Negroes. We're completely different people. Ham was one of the sons of Noah, which Ham is the progenitor of the African races. But they're heathen. The Egyptians looked like us, but they had us in slavery. And so Africans are not a people, and I'm not going to go on a tangent. Says all Africa is black or tawny, and tawny red refers to the Native Americans, tribe of Gad, which is the northern kingdom Israelites, along with the other so-called Hispanic uh, in the Seminole Indian tribes, and then again Indian and so-called Haitian Negroes. That's the Southern Kingdom. Um, so Asia chiefly tawny, America exclusive of the newcomers. Um, Holy so in Europe, the Spaniards, Italians, French, Russians, and Swedes are generally of what we call a swarthy complexion, which is dark skin. And so, um, um, Europe was actually Israelites, Roman Empire, also known as the medieval times from the start of ruling Rome, which the Etruscans, and but then Esau took over. Then the Rome that people know today, that has been revised to America, the NATO, and the EU, which is the beast system, seven heads NATO, the 10 horns the EU today. Um, and so the so-called white man fell out of power from ruling Rome, the Roman Empire, the fourth beast in Daniel 7. Um, uh, and then again, the Israelites took over Europe, and so Benjamin Franklin, and so that the whitewash history, if you will, people now they teach you in history class about just praising white people, and everything was all white, and then also when you take biblical, when you look at biblical pictures, everybody's so-called white. If you look up a picture of Noah right now with his three sons, Ham, Shem, and Japheth, you're gonna see four so-called white men. Um, and so if those are the progenitors of a race of people on the earth, why are they all? Everyone was melanated, and the nations, all the nations had a dark complexion. Um, the original Ishmaelites were so-called dark. Moabites were more dark skinned. Um, so-called white men whitewashing them. And so um uh and now um and now people look at us as slaves and just poor and nobodies. We were ruling over Europe. Um and so this excerpt by Benjamin Franklin, this essay also proves that and sheds some light on that history. Which also goes with biblical prophecy of Revelation, the 20th chapter, which Lord's will get into some of that. For the because you gotta to know the mystery, you gotta know the history, as the elders say. Um, Reading on, I'll read that part again. And in Europe, the Spaniards, Italians, French, Russians, and Swedes are, so you think of the countries, Spain, Italy, France, Russia, Sweden, are generally of what we call swarthy complexion, which is so-called dark skin, as are the Germans also, Germany. And then Esau had took over those lands. And then through the bubonic plague, different wars that were fought, and it's really the will of the Lord Yahweh Shai. Curses of Deuteronomy 28, and the prophecies of us going into slavery, Isaiah 47, yokes of irons on our necks, um, and the daughter of Babylon here in America, um, being taken here in slave ships and so on, the land of drawn waters, and so here in the land of the north, and so it's all prophecy, um, but reading on, the Saxons only accepted who were the English make the principal body of white people on the face of the earth. I could wish their numbers were increased, and while we are, as I may call it, scouring our planet by clearing America of woods, and so making this side of our globe reflect a brighter light to the eyes of the inhabitants in Mars or Venus. So, Esau's getting all in his faggy, white pride shit, Benjamin Franklin. And so making this side of our globe reflect a brighter light to the eyes of inhabitants of Mars, Venus. Why should we, in the sight of superior beings, darken its people? So that's the pride of Esau. He just considers himself superior. Now, all the nations have their quarrel against every other nation. But the Bible says Israel is superior. Deuteronomy 7 and 6, 2 Ezra 5, 2 Ezra 6. And the list goes on. Deuteronomy 4. Israel, we're the Lord's chosen people throughout the whole book, the whole roll, the volume of the book. And so, but that's the perpetual hatred that Esau has towards us, pursuant to Ezekiel 30. But I want to finish reading this and get the whole point, because the point's coming up. It says, why should we, in the sight of superior beings, this also shows that Benjamin Franklin ain't no righteous person. None of these crackers and Edomites are. Well, you have Israelites that actually look like so-called white people, but they're Israelites who deceive their father. But what I mean is Edomites, which generally the Edomites are the so-called white man, but you have sprinkles of our people that, which is a great multitude in Revelation 7, that are Israelites that have put their seed in the heathen woman, and then the sons look like the heathen nations, but they're Israelites by the seed of their father. Reading on, getting to the point. Why increase the sons of Africa, which they also put that African stuff on us? Remember that Africa is named after Scipio Africanus. So for one, we're not even African. That's just a so-called white man's name he put on that land of the land of Ham. And then two, we're Israelites, not Hamites. So if you think that they're going to teach you something, well, you thought wrong. He's going to push his faggy white supremacy on you and try to make you some slave in the compartment of society. And then he's going to turn on you and force you to take a microchip, because he's the man of sin and man, which that microchip's the mark of the beast. Revelation 13, 16, 17. Reading on to the point. Why increase the sons of Africa by planting them in America and Vespucci, another so-called Edomite, or another Edomite, so-called white man, where we have so fair an opportunity by excluding all blacks and tawnies, of increasing the lovely white and red. I'm going to read that again. Where we have so fair an opportunity by excluding all blacks and tawnies of increasing the lovely white and red. And so, who is the white and the red talking about? It's talking about the so-called white man. This is Benjamin Franklin's excerpt on build a white people kingdom and keeping the melanated nations, especially the Israelites, so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans, out of it. And so he mentioned the so-called white man as the lovely whites, and the red. I'll read it again. By excluding all blacks and tawnies of increasing the lovely white and red. And so, remember what I said earlier, take mention of and remember that Esau came out red all over like a hairy garment. And so, Spirit, and that's why I made a title, does Benjamin Franklin know he's an Edomite, but nonetheless he told on his own people because he called his own people red. And so there's no coincidence. Um, and then I'll read it off to finish it off. But perhaps I'm partial to the complexion of my country, for such kind of partiality is natural to mankind, and it is natural. Uh, you're our enemy, we're your enemies. The Lord divided the nations and set the bounds according to the children of Israel. I think it's Deuteronomy 32:8. So we're all divided, and the Israelites were the chosen. So we're not going to make friends. There is no making friends. Whoever is in power, the sons of men will just follow them. Pursuant to the three classifications of men, the sons of God, the sons of the wicked, and the sons of men. And the main, the protagonist, the good guy, if you will, the main character is Jacob, but the other main character is the evil guy, the antagonist is Esau, even the so-called white man. And so, although you have heathen, the Medo-Persian Empire and Hamites have ruled the Egyptians, Medo-Persians being Japheth and Elam, Japheth the Medes, Elam the Persians. The main two rulers and characters of the story are Jacob and Esau. And so, Jacob being the so-called black, so-called Hispanic, so-called Native Americans, Esau, Edom being the so-called white man, as the Greeks, the Romans, and today. And so what you see happen is the other nations follow Esau, the wicked, the sons of the wicked, the so-called white man, everything he does. And then in our kingdom, as the sons of God, the heathen are going to follow us in everything we do. We're going to force it on. We're soon to Micah, the 4th chapter. All the nations are going to come to Zion to learn the laws. It's going to be a kingdom of righteousness. But I'm going to get to the scriptures. Benjamin Franklin, he said it, and that's what the Bible says. And so I read that, and I've went into this before and seen it before, but when the brother put it up, I didn't catch the part where it mentioned he said red in there about the so-called white people. And so and I haven't read the full excerpt, but the part where the Europeans are the rulers of Europe were of swarthy complexion, showing you that Israelites ruled Europe in the time of the Byzantine Holy Roman Empire, medieval Dark Age times, which is prophecy, Revelation 20. But then it also threw in, he mentioned the so-called white man as being red, and this is what the Bible says. And Benjamin Franklin was a more powerful Edomite. He was probably a Freemason, an Illuminati, so-called illuminated one. Going back to Lucifer, the light bearers, high law in the Hebrew. The elite, the Illuminati, which are overseeing the rulership of Babylon the Great, America, here in the land of the North. But he's doing all manner, probably a Mo doing all manner of abominations, and I have to do a lesson on him too because he's on a dollar bill, the $100 bill, obviously. Still doing that series. I got Andrew Jackson on a 20 coming up next, and then so Benjamin Franklin's he's on the list. So I'm gonna have to make a lesson on him soon anyway. So I haven't done enough research on him. But this is Genesis 25, start at 21. And Isaac entreated the Lord Yahweh for his wife, because she was barren, meaning her womb. And the Lord Yahweh was entreated of him, and Rebekah his wife conceived. And that was an act of faith. It was required faith in Yahweh Bash Yoshad. Hebrews 11, verse 22. And the children struggled together within her, and she said, and so we were warring with Esau since the womb. Showing you there's a variance. Showing you we ain't gonna ever get along with Esau. You got people trying to save the Edomites. We're never gonna get along with Esau. We were struggling since the womb. So if you try to get along with Esau, you're in a wrestling match. You're in a fight. If you just stop fighting, you're gonna get fought. And so that the Lord put us in this. And that's what the people can't understand. The Lord had Jacob and Esau wrestling in the womb. That didn't mean nothing, because it's a perpetual hatred. And it shows you that goes back to Cain and Abel. Esau is Cain. Read snake, you fucking retards. It's the sons of the wicked. The wicked people that rule the earth and brought their wicked fruits, the philosophies, and they used the Israelite woman, Eve, so-called black woman, to get to the Israelite man, the Edomites, the sons of God at the time. It's Jacob and Esau. It was that from the beginning. Because there's more than literally just Adam and Eve. It's where they Cain get his wife from. And so you had the sons of the wicked and the sons of God and the sons of men, which are the other heathens, like the so-called East Indian man, the so-called Asian man. Today, Moab, the so-called East Indian man is Elam. The so-called Arab man today is Ishmael. These are the biblical nationalities, all these people. And so it was always like that on the scene. And so the devil, the old serpent, there's a devil in the flesh. And it's a nation of people, which went through Cain and his seed, eradicated in the flood with Noah in that time, and then came back through Esau. And so there's always a fight between good and evil. And the nation of evil is the so-called white man, the Edomites, and the nation of good is the Israelites, the so-called blacks, so-called Hispanics, so-called Native Americans. You got Israelite foreigners as well. Reading on, this is important to get into. This is 25 and 22, when the children struggled to get on us for saying, oh, you Jesus haters, idolatry, money grubbing, thieving, homosexuality. Those are the tenets of America. Babylon the Great. And now Satan is so let's see if he's taking me out with the connection. So yeah, we're good. And so The pride and racism of Benjamin Franklin and so-called white people only attest to the fact that they're Edomites. It's there are a lot of color scriptures, and I went into a lesson on color scriptures. And the scriptures make mention of the Israelites being a certain color. And there are many examples. And the scriptures make mention of Esau when he was born being a certain color. And this is the color that Benjamin Franklin is so proud of his people being and hating the dark-skinned people and even calling them red, which is what we're going to read is how Esau was born. Because you can see the redness on their skin. And you have Israel. When they're born, they get sunburnt. You can see the redness in them. Even if they're not, they're just standing there. They were Spanish American War, French American War, the Silk Empire between the Ptolemies and the Seleucids, the kings of the north. Esau was always fighting each other, and he was blessed with a great sword. Genesis 27, showing him Esau has talked to Galatians. Edomites are still here today. Fell his blessing in the fatness of the earth here in America. Isaiah 14, they would go up into the heavens. Obadiah says they would go up into the heavens. They exalt themselves as the eagle. So this red so-called white devil, Benjamin Franklin is exposed himself. So Genesis 25, reading on, verse 22, inquire of the Lord Yahweh. And Yahweh said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people are to invoke him alone. Nation, let's go back to Italian or Latin, natio meaning people, or race of people. And the one people shall the other, which is the Israelites, and the elder, which is the Edomites, 2 different nations, which were struggling, and as struggle has obviously continued today, the Indian Removal Act, the Conquistador siege on the Americas, Arsareth, 2 13, the land where never mankind dwelt. And in the time of King David, we was fucking up y'all Edomites. Because we know the truth. And we're not ashamed to say we're going to fuck you up again and put y'all in slavery in the kingdom of heaven, which is coming very soon. Which starts with this word, the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven. The house of David is being built up before your eyes. Us preaching this word, the third temple, which is spiritual. And the Lord Yahweh is going to save us, and then we're going to rule the earth and put all you heathen in slavery. That's why the Lord said he's going to rule all nations with a rod of iron. The heathen, which are his inheritance, to dash them to pieces like a potter's vessel. Psalms 2, speaking of the Lord Yahushua, the Messiah. People don't understand what the Lord really came for. They don't go through the volume of the book. We're reading on, so the elder shall serve the younger. Esau is made to be her slaves. Verse 24, and when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb, which will become 2 nations. Esau, the so-called white nation. Jacob, the so-called black, so-called Hispanic, so-called Native American as a nation. Verse 25, and the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. And so Benjamin Franklin made mention that he hates the tawny and the blacks, so-called blacks, talking to the Native Americans, but he loves the white and red people, which is his own people. It's like the connection's going bad again. So secondary 69 is Jacob took hold on Esau's heel. Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob shall be the beginning of it that falleth. Because Esau's ruling now, and we're going to rule next. And we're pulling at this devil's heel now. Because everything is symbolic. Because secondary 69 is going to come to pass. And in the way that we're born is the way that we have continued to live. And the Lord made it that way. Um, fucking faggot, Christian, wacky tacky so-called Christians. Better learn something. But we know the elect of Israel have obtained it and the rest were blinded. And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 60 years old, which is 60. Score means 20, so 3 times 20 is 60 years old when she bare them. And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and that so-called white man always hunting. And Jacob was a plain man dwelling in tents. And so that says Israelites. Mama's boy, plain man dwelling in tents, chilling at the crib. And Esau was hunting. He was a man of the field. And that's what Esau does. And he hunts souls today. His whole system is just built to really this new world order. What he's doing, he's trying to hunt us, trying to put a microchip in us, the mark of the beast, and take control of the earth, and get his birthright back that he sold, which we read about reading on in Genesis. You'll read from 25 to 27. Where it's really right here, where it says, Genesis 25 and 32, and Esau said, Behold, I am at the point to die, and what profit shall this birthright do to me? And Jacob said, Swear to me this day, and he swore unto him, and he sold his birthright unto Jacob. And so Esau sold his birthright. So you got to pay for that. You ain't getting to the kingdom because you sold your birthright. You sold, and that's how the Lord made it, because the kingdom of heaven was where the Lord's chosen people. Why, if the Edomites were supposed to rule the world forever and have their birthright, then why would the Messiah be the Lion of the tribe of Judah? Why would he be of the seed of David? I mean, y'all just don't even read the scriptures. The stupidity of so-called Christians. It's a monstrosity. It's damn what it is I've been always thinking about this often. The scripture in Sirach or Ecclesiastes where it says it's harder to bear salt, sand, or it's easier to bear salt, sand, and massive iron than to bear the weight of a fool. Because dealing with these fucking fools is hard work. Because like, how could something so simple just go over your fucking heads? But nonetheless, let's read this again. Then we'll skip back up to where we were. I just want to get that point about the birthright. Genesis 25 and 25. And the first came out red all over like an hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. And so Esau is the red man, which is called the so-called white man today, which was an act of social deception of the so-called white man in the Renaissance period to portray deception of him being a pure nation, which was Benjamin Franklin said he was doing. He wanted to keep all the melanated people slaves out of here and just have an all-white nation. And so have it so be. Kingdom, we're not going to accept the Edomites. You're going into slavery. It's all the niceness from the Edomites. It ain't going to profit you. So let's read what Benjamin Franklin said again in the 24th part of the excerpt of his essay titled Observations Concerning the Increase of Mankind, Peopling of Countries. Just the last part of the 24th number point. It says, why increase the sons of Africa, which I explained also that Africa is named after a so-called white man, Edomite by Scipio Africanus. We're not African. The Hamites are Africans. They're heathen. They're dark-skinned. We're Israelites. The so-called blacks, the so-called Hispanics, so-called Native Americans. We're not related to Africans. Only through Shem, but then we obviously with Jacob, and the Lord divided us as the chosen. Obviously, by planting them in America, where we have so fair an opportunity by excluding all blacks and Tawnies of increasing, which are the so-called blacks and Native Americans, and they also mention some other dark nations as Tawnies, of increasing the lovely white. And so he hates the Israelites, and Benjamin Franklin loves the Edomites. He loves his obviously he loves his nation. And so the white and the red. So it's showing you that the so-called white man is the Edomites. They're the red people. Benjamin Franklin has said it himself. He exposed his own people. So the Edomites is the red man. The Americans are the red people. So-called whites of America. The non-melanated, the whites and the red. And that's that racism and perpetual hatred. Quantities of the increasing of the lovely white and red, but perhaps I am partial to the complexion of my country, for such kind of partiality is natural to mankind. What does partiality mean if you don't know? Partiality is a noun meaning an unfair bias, preference, or favoritism toward one person, side, or group over another. So Benjamin Franklin was obviously, we're all partial, which is what he's saying, to our own nation. You don't love other nations. Now, in other nations, put other nations in slavery. And that's what has happened through history, and that's what's going to continue to happen in the kingdom of heaven, and you Edomites are going to be history, because the slavery will be written, and then Obadiah 1 and 18 are going to be extinct. This is Ezekiel chapter 35, and I got to close out. I should have charged my phone more, because I wanted to go into Revelation 20, but really that's not the point. But Benjamin Franklin also mentioned the so-called dark Israelite rulers of Europe. But that can be a different lesson for a different time. Ezekiel 35 and 1, the moreover the word of the Lord Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Mount Seir. Genesis 36 tells you Esau is Edom, and he dwells in Mount Seir. So Ezekiel 35 is talking to the Edomites. More proof is that verse 15, the last verse, mentions Idumea. So Ezekiel 35 and 2, Son of man, set thy face against Mount Seir. Today is America, the modern day Mount Seir, the hub of the Edomites, and prophesy against it. So we're commanded to prophesy against Esau. And Ezekiel 35 entails future judgment on Edom, which hasn't happened yet in these times. Verse 3, and say unto it, thus saith the Lord Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai power, behold, O Mount Seir, I am against thee, and I'll stretch out mine hand against thee, and I'll make thee most desolate. And America's going to be a desert wasteland, nuclear destruction. I will lay thy cities waste, and thou shalt be desolate, and thou shalt know that I am the Lord Yahweh, because thou hast had a perpetual hatred, and so this is the perpetual hatred. That's their partiality, and that partiality was backed by hatred, which is why we were struggling in the womb to begin with. This is why slavery happened. This is why they took the Bible, beat our heritage as Israelites out of us, and pushed the so-called white Messiah on us, Caesar Borgia and Serapis Christus from the Ptolemy Greek Empire, the soldiers, the Edomites trying to make themselves saviors, the soldiers. And then now you have today just a nation, it's all confusion. Here in Babylon means confusion. Everything is just fucked up. And so, as prophets of Whitewashing is here to set things straight until Lord Yahweh comes back to physically judge the earth with fire, with violence, nuclear destruction, and laser beams from the chariots, to annihilate all the wicked and the unbelievers of this gospel of the truth, and those that partook in the wickedness of America against us Israelites and over the four corners of the earth as well. The great day of judgment is coming, and you Edomites are the face of that, or the main face of that judgment, the main facet, if you will. But the wicked of our people and the rest of you heathen as well. Ezekiel 35:5, because thou hast had a perpetual hatred, and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword, and the time of their calamity and the time of their iniquity had an end. And so, you Edomites, all you did was destroy us with the sword. That's all you've done over the course of history. Alongside the Babylonians coming against our temple, Amalek, when Yehoshua delivered us from Egypt, the Greeks, Antiochus Epiphanes, torturable Hellenization, the Romans, the siege of Jerusalem, 66 to 74 AD, trying to kill Lord Yahushua when he was born, and then the transatlantic slave trade and an attempted genocide of the so-called Native American and Hispanic indigenous, the Northern Kingdom Israelites. And so, this is all you did, was try to kill us with the sword and have a perpetual hatred against us, you so-called white, you red devils. And so what Benjamin Franklin said is just proof yet that you are the Edomites, and that color does matter. And the Bible mentions color, and it mentions the atrocities that you did to us with your blessing of the sword. And I'm going to get this. I quoted it thoroughly earlier and broke it down. But I'm going to read it to put that point together, because Ezekiel 35 mentioned the sword as well, and the Edomites. Revelation 6:4, and there went out another horse that was red. This is talking about the Edomites, the red man, and power was given to him that sat thereon. So the Native Americans are not the red man. I don't know why the fuck they call us that, but the so-called white man is the red man. I guess they could say the ruddiness can go from a so-called black man to anybody. Now you see it, maybe you see a little ruddiness. There's more brown in the so-called Native American, the so-called black man. Sometimes you get brothers that are more ruddy, where you see the redness a little bit. But as far as the real redness goes, the so-called white man takes the cake. So-called white man is obvious, is the red man, especially when he's born. I mean, no, I see white babies, but if you looked up a picture, them motherfuckers look red as shit. And so, but nonetheless, and then it, like I said, burned by the sun, times of emotion. So-called white man is the red man. And so, and he came out red all over like a hairy garment, because everyone else was melanated. It's fucking obvious. He was the different creature, the different nation, which has a perpetual hatred against us. Revelation 6:4, and there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth. This is what the so-called white man did. The Native American didn't. The tribe of Gad and Reuben, the so-called Seminole Indians, they didn't do this. So-called white man took peace on earth. No nation did this except for the Edomites. Earth is given into the hand of the wicked. Edom is the wicked. Malachi 1:4. He covered the face of the judges thereof. Iconoclasm. If not, where and who is he? It's the Edomites. If not him, then who is he? And where? So you're in America. And power was given to him that said thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they shall kill one another. They're always killing each other because they even hate their own brethren. The Syrian wars, the Ptolemies and the Seleucids, Daniel 11, the Civil War here in America, the different wars that were fought, even world wars that were fought. And there was given unto him a great sword. Genesis 27, Esau was blessed with a sword. And he used that sword to kill us Israelites. And Esau has to pay. That's why the sword's going to destroy you Edomites. Isaiah 34, the sword shall be bathed in heaven and come down upon Idumea. But I just sparked a lesson with that, the excerpt I seen one of the brothers post of Benjamin Franklin, of his faggot racist remarks in his essay of peopling that in trying to make America a white nation. So he mentioned that his people are white and red. So that shows they're Esau. So I hope that was edifying. With that, going to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, HaKadosh. Yahweh is the true name of the Heavenly Father. That's the Hebrew. Yahweh Shai is the true name of Somebody God's Son. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who were well, and shalom to the elect.